All right, so today we're going to walk through the Golden Shield Life Insurance webpage, top to bottom. We'll break down exactly how they present their services so you can get a really clear picture of what they offer and, how they talk about it. So here's the game plan. First, we'll get into the why, the basic need for protection. Then we'll look at what it means to be an independent broker. After that, we'll cover the main insurance options plus some of the specialized stuff. We'll also touch on their support for veterans, and finally, wrap up with the actual process they lay out for getting a policy. The first thing you notice on their site is they don't just jump into selling you something. Nope, they start with the why. They really dig into the fundamental reasons people even start looking for life insurance in the first place. And it all boils down to this one simple but really powerful question. It's the core of their message, and it connects with something we all think about, making sure the people we love are financially secure no matter what. And according to their site, these are the big reasons. It's all about creating that financial safety net. Making sure your family can replace your income, that they can stay in their home without worrying about the mortgage, and that those final expenses are taken care of. It's all about keeping things stable during a really tough time. Okay, so once they've established why you'd even want insurance, then they get into how they can help. And the key idea here isn't just selling a policy, it's about being a guide, an independent one. And this is where they draw a really clear line in the sand. They show you the difference between an agent who works for just one company and what they do as an independent broker. The main takeaway? A broker works for you, the client. They're not tied to one set of products, so they can shop around at dozens of companies to find what actually fits. And of course, to build that trust, you've got to show you're a real, legitimate business. They put their credentials right out there. Licensed, veteran-owned, with a real street address in Atlanta. It grounds everything in a sense of credibility and local identity. All right, next up, they get into the nitty-gritty, the main types of life insurance policies you can get. They break them down into the big three categories. The first one they break down is term life. The way they explain it, it's kind of like insurance for a specific chapter of your life, like the years you're paying down a mortgage or your kids are still at home. It's for when that financial loss would hit the hardest. Then you got whole life. They position this as the permanent option. So unlike term, this is designed to last your entire life. And as the site points out, it also has this interesting feature called cash value that can grow over time. And the third big one they talk about is Indexed Universal Life, or IUL for short. This one's also permanent, but they highlight its flexibility. The cash value part of it has the potential to grow based on how a market index, like the S&P 500, performs. And to make it super easy to see the difference, they put it all into this handy little chart. You can see right away how term, whole, and IUL stack up against each other based on things like how long they last, the cost, and whether they build cash value. Okay, but it doesn't stop at the big three. The website then dives into another whole category of coverage. These are the supplemental plans, meant to help with very specific and often unexpected financial hits. So they list a bunch of these. The idea behind all of them is to give you cash directly to you when you need it for those things your main health insurance just doesn't touch, like everyday bills or travel for treatment. I really like how they talk about disability insurance. They call it protecting your paycheck, which is such a great way to think about it, right? Because your income is basically the engine for your entire financial life. If that stops, everything else gets a lot harder. And they make a really important point about these plans for cancer or accidents. They're not there to replace your health insurance, not at all. They're designed to give you cash directly to help with all the other costs that pop up, the stuff that can really drain your savings. So there's also this whole section on the site that's specifically for veterans, and it's clear they've put a lot of thought into this, addressing the unique questions and situations that veterans and their families face. And they handle this really well. They don't dismiss things like SGLI or VGLI. In fact, they say it's a critical foundation. But they also explain where private insurance can come in to really round out that protection, especially after you've left the military and your needs change. All right, so after explaining all the whats and whys, the site wraps up by showing you the how. They lay out their process super clearly so it doesn't feel confusing or overwhelming at all. And they boil it down to this simple three-step process: evaluate, compare, secure. It's all about starting with you and your goals, then looking at all the different options out there from a bunch of companies, and then moving forward to lock in a policy with their help. And they also make sure to mention something that's a huge deal for a lot of people: no medical exam options. They explain that you don't always have to go through a physical to get coverage, which, let's be honest, is a big relief for some folks. And they end the whole thing with this really thought-provoking quote. It's not a hard sell. It basically leaves you with a choice. You can keep guessing about all this stuff, you can try to research it all yourself, or you can talk to someone and get some clear answers. It's a pretty compelling way to put the ball back in your court.